What's going on, everybody? So it's that time. It is time to do an update on my truck as far as ownership goes. Now, I did a 3-month ownership, I did a 6-month ownership, I did a 1-year ownership of the truck, and I told y'all I wasn't going to do that again like that. I may even done a 9-month the first year I owned it. I told y'all I wasn't going to do another one until I'd owned it another year. Well, that's now. 2 years. I've had this truck 2 years. It does not seem like I've had this truck that long. Now, there's been a lot of things done to this truck in 2 years. There's been a few things happen to this truck in 2 years, and we're gonna go over that right now. So let's get on with it. All right, so as a lot of people probably want to know, reliability. Now, if you are a subscriber to the channel and you follow the channel, you know about some of the issues I've had with this truck. It's not been a lot. It's not like Ford where we have a recall every quarter, it seems like. I do want to say I've owned this truck for 2 years. I've never had a recall, not one recall. The reliability of this truck is uncanny, especially as far as the engine goes. Now, I have had a couple issues. One of them was minor, one of them not so minor. There was a workaround for the new people that may be watching this video, and I'll go into that right now. The headlights. My headlights, at one point in time, when I would turn on my turn signal, would flicker. They would just flash real quick. And it was so quick to start with that I didn't know if my eyes were playing tricks on me or if they really went out. They were really going out, because one day I turned on my turn signal and they didn't come back on. Because normally, if I cut the wheel, when the switch would pop back down, they would come back on, where it just flicker a little bit. But when the switch come back down, they didn't come back on. Now, my daytime running lights stayed on, and if you didn't have daytime running lights, this would be even more dangerous. But I had daytime running lights, and it gave me enough light on the road that I could see to drive. Now, the workaround was, that was only on auto mode. If I turned the lights on constant mode and then just flipped them to the off position, that never happened. So I had a workaround. I could use just constant on or off, no issues at all. But with auto mode, it had that flicker, and it finally just got to where when it turned on the turn signal, every once in a while, it wasn't every time, it seemed like it did it more in the cold, that it just would not come back on. Now, what they did to fix that was they replaced the stalk that your headlight switch is actually on. So after they did that, I've had no more issues. Everything seems to be fixed, and headlights are working perfectly. So it was in the stalk. They did do an update on that stalk. I did find that out. They did like a revision or something to it. So I think they may have had a slight issue with some of them. Fixed that issue, and now I don't have a problem. I was just one of the very few unlucky people that had it. But that is one of the only major issues I've had with the truck. Nothing engine-wise, like I said, but that is still dangerous. So next is trips. I take this thing on trips, a lot of trips. I've took it on a ton of trips over 2 years. This thing rides like a Cadillac. It is so luxurious. It just floats down the road. It is probably the most comfortable vehicle I've ever rode in my life. I do have like the Lexus gray leather seats. They are softer than the normal leather, and it just seems to be, I don't know, it's just so comfortable to drive in. And everybody that I know has a Tundra say the same thing, that these trucks are just so comfortable to ride in and to take long trips in. And there again, that goes along with the reliability. I've drove this thing to Florida probably, I don't know, 10, 12 times over the last couple of years, maybe probably close to 10 times, I'd say, over the last couple of years. And I've not had any issues. The biggest issue on long trips is your gas mileage. You're going to feel it in your pocket. It is what it is. I get about 14.5, 15 miles a gallon on long trips. It's been the same way over 2 years. I do have the Borla exhaust. I do have an S&B intake. Neither one seemed to help or hurt the situation very much. 14.5, 15 miles a gallon on the interstate. And I've heard people with stock tires getting worse. I do run 35, 12, 50, 20s on my truck. And I still get somewhere around 15. Now, of course, you have other vehicles, other trucks that are going to get better gas mileage. I have owned a few of those. I still like this better, even with the gas mileage. Maintenance. Now, over the last couple years, my Toyota Care ran out. So now I'm having to pay for the oil changes. I think I've literally only had to pay for like 1 or 2 oil changes. It hasn't been many. It just ran out not too long ago. The oil changes are pretty expensive. If I remember correctly, both of my F-150s that I had, the oil changes would run me around $65, $70-ish, I think. I think it was around 60 some dollars. If you don't have a coupon for this truck, which Toyota does send out coupons, and I use those regularly, but if you do not have a coupon for this truck, it will cost you over $100 at the dealership to have this truck serviced. Now, I'm throwing this in here because this is part of the 2-year ownership. Your Toyota Care will run out. You may want to know that. You do have to give them that coupon first when you take the truck in, not after they service it. I did that last time. I didn't know I had to give it to them first. He did honor the coupon, but it does say make sure you give them that first. So if you go in and you have the coupon to lower this to like $70, $80 or something like that, make sure you give it to them when you first walk up, or they may or may not honor that. But maintenance on this is pretty expensive compared to other vehicles, but I think the reliability side of it, where you don't have all the recalls, is worth it in my opinion. Tire wear. Now, like I said, this is a 2-year ownership video. This is how stuff holding up. I do have Nitto Terra Grappler G2s on this truck. They are 35 1250s. I do run a 3.2 ready lift. No other modifications to the suspension is done. I don't have upper control arms or anything like that. I do have slight outer tire wear, worse than the inner tire wear, but I still have almost 40,000 miles on these tires, and you can see from right here that that tire wear is doing pretty good. I really believe that I will get over 50,000 miles out of these tires, or right around 50,000 miles out of these tires, and I have never gotten 50,000 miles out of a set of tires in my life. So I will be going back with these tires when it's time to do that. Actually, when it's time to get tires in this truck, it'll be close for me to trade it. So I'm hoping that on the new Tundra that these wheels will fit, but I don't know that because somebody said it looked like they were going to a 6-lug. If that's the case, I'll probably just take the tires off and put them on a new wheel, but I'll probably just go back with the Nitto Terra Grappler G2s again. They've been great tires. No issues with those at all. Rust. I don't have any rust problems. I know the older Tundras and Tacomas, they replace the frames on them and stuff like that, but I do believe that Toyota got that fixed, or at least in my area. I live in Tennessee. We don't get a ton of snow. We don't have a lot of salt on the road and stuff like that. I literally don't have any rust on the bottom of this truck. None. It's clean. It's dirty. I mean, it's like dirt on it, but there's no rust on it anywhere at all as far as the frame goes and stuff like that. So I do believe that Toyota has probably gotten that taken care of, and it would be smart of them to do that, because after it cost them that much to replace all those frames, which were like $11,000 a truck, they should have got it fixed. They don't want to have to go through that again. So I don't really have any rust issues. Now I do want to say, if I'd left those flares on without putting the tape underneath them, that some rust issues could have occurred, but I got that fixed and caught soon enough that I don't believe there'll be any rust issues with the Toyota trucks, and I think you're safe to buy one now without having to worry about in 10 years having to have their frame replaced. Squeaks and rattles. Now this is a big thing to me because it annoys me when I'm driving down the road. My Jeep has some squeaks. I expect that out of a Jeep. I don't expect that out of, a 50-some thousand dollar truck, and I don't have it. This truck has no squeaks. At 40,000 miles, I don't have squeaks. I don't have, rattles and stuff like that, unless it's something that I have threw in the glove box or something like that, or in the console. Now, if I did that, that's my fault. I deserve to hear it rattle because I should have secured it better. But as far as like the dash squeaking and stuff like that, I own a Roush Mustang. When it's cold, the dash squeaks. I don't know what it is. It drives me crazy. That was almost a $50,000 car, or new. I didn't pay that for it, but new. It was almost a $50,000 car. It only has 24,000 miles on it, and it has squeaks in it. This truck, no issues at all. No squeaks, no nothing. 2 thumbs up for Toyota for getting that taken care of. I'm sure they got some kind of padding and felt and stuff in between the stuff so it doesn't rub and squeak, but they got that right, thank goodness. The engine, like I said, my buddy had one that blew up. I think that was an isolated incident, but mine has 40,000 miles on it. It sounds just as quiet today as it did the day I drove it off the lot. And I've not had any issues with the engine, knock on wood. I don't want to have any engine issues, but I've not had any. It is quiet. The only thing I can say about the engine that I've noticed is when you're running the air conditioner, a lot of times maybe the electrical fan will kick on and off and the RPMs will fluctuate a little bit. And I do notice this doing it a little more than some of the other vehicles I've owned. That is not a problem. That's just something I noticed, especially after I got my Jeep Wrangler. I can't even feel that thing idling. When I pull up to a stoplight and I stop, I can't even feel it running. The first time I test drove it, I thought it had died. And I guess that's what's made me notice it on this, because that idle's so smooth. And when the electric fan kicks on and off, you can notice the RPMs move a little bit. And when you're running the air heat, which is expected, you can feel that. And I noticed it a little more after I got the Jeep. Not an issue again, just something to note. If your truck does that, it's probably okay. Bluetooth connectivity. Again, this is a 2-year update. Had this truck for 2 years. I've had no problems with my Bluetooth connectivity. I know some other people have said their Bluetooth doesn't connect to their trucks as well, their Tundras as well. They've had some issues with that. I know some people said that the people, when they had their truck, didn't hear them as well on the other side of the phone when they were talking. I've had no issues with the Bluetooth connectivity in this truck. People can hear me well when I'm talking. As soon as I get in the truck and fire it up, it almost connects instantaneously. I love how fast this thing connects. My Jeep takes forever for the Bluetooth to connect in it. This truck, almost instantaneously. It is amazing how fast this thing, before I can get out of my driveway, the Bluetooth is connected. Love it. 2 thumbs up for the Bluetooth. I wish the JBL radio was a little louder. I could probably change the speakers and stuff like that, but for the price of the truck, I think it should have been a little bit louder. You don't hear the subs as much and stuff like that in this truck as I have other trucks. But as far as the Bluetooth connectivity goes, perfect in my truck. Last thing we're going to talk about is how the interior and the exterior is holding up. My interior is holding up perfect. There is a small little place on my seat. I mean, it's tiny. I'll try to add a picture right here. I mean, it is ever so small, ever so slight, not even enough to really worry about. But that's the only place I've noticed any wear in the leather at all, other than like your normal lines you'll get in a leather seat just from sitting in it. And even that is minimal. But the rest of the interior is holding up perfect. It looks like it's a brand new truck on the inside. No scratches or anything like that. The dash hasn't cracked as well as it shouldn't over the period of time that I've owned it. No issues at all. Like I said, there's no squeaks or rattles or anything. The outside of the truck, the only problem with the outside of the truck is this paint is thin. I think it's that way on all Toyotas. I don't know why, but the paint is very thin and you can scratch it with your fingernail. Ask me how I know. You shouldn't be running your fingernails across your truck. It happened. But the paint is thin. That is the only problem I have with the exterior of this truck. That may have been part of my issues with the flares scratching it. I think the flares will scratch any vehicle you put them on. It may have been a little worse on the Toyota because their paint is thinner. But the exterior, like we was talking about before, has no rust on it, no rust issues. Really, the paint's held up decent. I do have some rock chips and stuff like that, but I do drive on the interstate a lot, so you are going to get that on the front. I actually even busted a grill with a rock flew up and hit it. So the insurance actually replaced my TRD Pro grill for me at one point in time. But there again, when you're driving 80 mile an hour or 85 mile an hour on the interstate, tractor trailer, somebody throws up a good sized rock, it's going to mess up something. Had to have the windshield replaced the first week I had it. Same thing. Big old rock flew up, nailed it. But overall, other than issues that's out of your control such as that, the truck has held up amazingly. I would definitely buy this truck again. I think everybody should own a Tundra because they are awesome. Cavernous on the inside, great vehicles for travel in. You have all the room and space you need, and the mods are limitless. Doesn't matter what you want to do to it, you can do it because somebody makes it. And you can buy it. It's either expensive all the way down to cheaper stuff for the same thing. The quality may be different, but however much you want to spend, it's probably out there for you. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.